So I spent a lot of this summer in New York, and while I was there, something happened that gave me hope for America's political future for the first time in a long time, or at the very least, New York's political future, because Andrew Cuomo, the serial sexual harasser, friend of landlords, and dude who's never been on a train without a camera crew, got crushed in the Democratic primary for New York City mayor by Zohran Mamdani. And this is one of those moments I wish I had a studio audience, because they'd all be like, ah! Ah! Yeah! And I have just never seen New Yorkers this excited about a candidate before, or excited about anything before. Generally, New Yorkers just complain about the subway or the lines at the MoMA or that they're walking here. But after the primary election, everyone I encountered was so thrilled they were smiling almost as big as Zohran. And look, Zohran isn't just exciting because he's not kissing Cuomo. Zohran is invigorating people across the country because he ran on the number one policy that Democrats have seemed completely incapable of addressing: affordability. Look at the front page of this dude's website. Zohran Mamdani is running for mayor to lower the cost of living for working class New Yorkers. This campaign is for every person who believes that the government's job is actually to make our lives better. I mean, yes, this is what we have been begging Democrats, or really any politician, to campaign on for years. Not just begging for votes to stop bad things from happening, not running on culture war bullshit, but running on an actual plan to make life actually better for average people. That is how you win elections. And because he campaigned on affordability, Zohran turned out voters in record numbers. It was the highest turnout for a mayoral primary in decades. And since activating apathetic voters is exactly what the Democrats say they need to do, it was kind of weird to see them throw this dude who just won a Democratic primary under the fare free bus. I mean, even after the Democratic voters of New York clearly chose Mamdani as their Democratic candidate, as of this recording, the congressional Democratic leaders from New York, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, still have not endorsed him. Other New York Democrats vaguely said they had serious concerns and called Zohran the absolute wrong choice for New York. New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand even accused him of referring to global jihad to kill all Jews. And that was so ridiculously wrong and offensive that even Gillibrand wound up apologizing a few days later, saying she misspoke. Oh yeah, I often misspeak and accidentally sound like the dude who writes New York Post headlines. Whoopsie daisy. But you know, watching all these Democrats mean-mugging Mamdani begs the question, why are the Democrats standing in the way of their own candidate, one of their most exciting candidates in years, someone who energizes voters and literally wrote a blueprint for how they can win again? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you why Zohran's strategy is the Democrats' best chance to come back from the wilderness and actually bring America back from the brink of autocracy, but only if they embrace it. But first, if you want to support the channel, head to patreon.com/Adam Conover. You know, one of my favorite features on our Patreon community is our community book club. Last month, we read Kashmir Hill's Your Face Belongs to Us, and up next, we're reading and discussing Rashid Khalidi's The 100-Year War on Palestine. So if you'd like to join us, head to patreon.com/Adam Conover. We would love to have you. And if you'd like to come see me do stand-up comedy in person, I just announced my brand new stand-up tour. I'm calling it the Big Divorce Energy Tour. It's kind of like Big Dick Energy, but even better because I cry a lot more. I'm joking around. It's a really good time. I'm headed to Indianapolis, Indiana, St. Louis, Missouri, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Brea, California, Los Angeles at the Lodge Room, one of my very favorite venues, Tacoma, Washington, Spokane, Washington, Des Moines, Iowa, Atlanta, Philly, Washington, D.C., and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Head to adamconover.net for all those tickets and tour dates. I'd love to see you out there. So last year, after Trump once again won the presidency on a platform of lowering prices and falling asleep on stage, Democrats had a full-fledged come-to-Jesus freakout. They'd lost young voters, people of color, and the working class. Everyone was pointing fingers, looking for someone to blame. And you know, this was exhausting because any schmo off the street could tell you where the Democrats actually went wrong. It's that people in America can't afford shit anymore. We're all working our asses off, and none of us can afford a place to live, a college education, or even ass surgery to put our asses back on. It is bleak out there for the average American, and that is glaringly obvious to everyone outside of the Democratic donor class. And yet Democrats refuse to make affordability a central issue in their campaign. And this blunder was so big that even once true blue places like New York started to swing double digits towards Trump. But even though the Democratic establishment couldn't see it, a little-noticed New York City mayoral candidate named Zohran Mamdani did. In fact, right after Trump won, Mamdani hit the streets to ask people why they voted for Trump.
And what would it take for you to vote for a Democrat in the future?
Being able to pay attention to the regular Americans and their economic needs.
Insulting us, playing on our emotions. All they do is shame you, and they just want to use glitzy campaigns, and they get celebrities.
They should make economics the forefront of their campaign.
And then he turned those interviews into campaign promises. Get this, he listened to the voters, and then he'd said he would do the thing they wanted him to do. Zohran made the cost of living the centerpiece of his campaign, promising to raise wages and lower food prices. And instead of offering vague platitudes about lifting the floor and making this an America where everyone has opportunity, no, Mamdani talked about exactly how he could make people's lives better as mayor.
Because my platform of a rent freeze, fast and free buses, universal childcare, funded by taxes on the rich, could be the difference between you having to move to Jersey City and getting to stay in the 5 boroughs.
I mean, it's so obvious from his campaign videos. You know how sometimes when career politicians run, even if they sound like they're trying to be empathetic and say the right thing, they sound like Lucille Bluth?
I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10?
Paid for by Cuomo for NYC.
The difference is, when Zohran talks about those issues, it's clear he comes from a place of experience, that he actually lives in the same city as the voters and actually faces the same pressures they do, so he actually wants to do something about them. Let's watch this video, which I think is hands down one of the best campaign videos I have ever seen.
New York is suffering from a crisis, and it's called halalflation.
Okay, so right off the bat, you can tell that Zohran isn't playing the part of a New Yorker. He is a fucking New Yorker. He's on the sidewalk in a big black puffer jacket, not because it looks mayoral, but for the reason every other New Yorker is, because it's fucking cold. This is the coat of someone who doesn't have a private car to take him place to place. This is the coat of a man who knows to duck when showtime starts on the 7 train. And talking about halal food as an affordability issue is brilliant. I lived in New York City for 10 years, and I know when you're running late and you're gonna miss your train, but you need to eat something, chicken or lamb over rice is what you fucking eat. But Zohran's not just getting relatability points, okay? Next, he does something extraordinary. He gives the mic to the working class people who serve the food, talking to the halal truck owners who make the food we eat about why exactly it has gotten more expensive.
How much does a plate of halal cost right now from this truck?
$10.
$10. Chicken over rice, lamb over rice, $10.
$10?
Yeah.
When you're a street vendor, you have to pay for the food, the plates. How much do you have to pay for your permit?
Before it was 22K.
17,000.
How much does a license cost if you get it from the city?
I think 400.
And who are you paying?
The permit owner.
You're not paying the city.
No.
You pay the permit owner $22,000 just so you can sell this food.
Yes.
And who is this?
A random guy.
Have you ever applied for a permit?
Yeah, I'm applying and no come anything.
It's long wait. Number 3,800 something.
These are the 4 bills that are sitting in the city council right now, which would give these vendors their own permits and make your halal more affordable. But Eric Adams hasn't said a single word about them. If you own the permit, then how much would you charge for the plate?
$7.
$8.
$8.
Would you rather pay $10 for a plate of halal or $8?
$8.
I think $8 is the way to go.
If I was the mayor, I'd be working with city council from day 1 to make halal $8 again.
So, how does it taste?
Tastes like $10, but it should be $8.
He shows you the exact bills that could be passed and how he could push them forward as mayor. So in less than 2 minutes, he's identified a problem most New Yorkers faced, he has explained the source of the problem and how to fix it, and identified a way that he could literally improve the city if you elect him. It is the perfect campaign ad. Now, watching Zohran talk about the food that he eats as a New Yorker and how he's gonna bring the price down, well, it really stands out when you compare it to the way his opponent, Andrew Cuomo, talks about these issues. Cuomo said he avoids bagels to keep his girlish figure, and that his favorite breakfast sandwich order is an English muffin with bacon, cheese, and egg. If you have never lived in New York, it is hard to explain how psycho this is. It's called a bacon, egg, and cheese. This is a gaffe so big, it would be like if a presidential candidate called the American flag the old blue, red, and white. Go back to fucking Massachusetts, asshole! And you can see that same man, not of the people energy in Cuomo's ad on the affordability crisis.
New York City has an affordability crisis, but we will rise. The minimum wage will rise. I raised it to the highest in the nation as governor. I'll do it here.
I mean, first of all, what in the stock footage is this version of New York? How did he find a street corner in a city of millions of people with nobody on it? And why did he just use a random Latino dude wearing an apron, looking vaguely proud without ever talking to him or identifying him in any way? It's like an uncanny valley AI copy of Zohran's ad. Zohran interacted with people? Let's have Cuomo play with this baby's foot like he's a witch with a house made of candy. He's clearly assessing that baby's foot for a stew. How does it have this exact vibe? This whole video, Cuomo comes across as a guy who's never even met a poor that wasn't on his payroll. And most importantly, Cuomo barely addresses what he would actually do about the problems of affordability. He talks like a politician, not like a New Yorker. He ends the ad with this weird call for all New Yorkers to rise.
Because there's a simple solution to a crisis: you act. So let's rise together.
I mean, I gotta say, making a campaign ad that sounds like a boner when you're running from a sexual harassment scandal is almost as dumb as calling it a bacon, cheese, and egg. Ugh, my skin crawls just saying the words in that order. When Zohran was offering specifics and relatability, Cuomo was offering vague hand-waving and awkward handshakes. And that's why Zohran won. That source, by the way, is from our sponsor, Ground News. You know, if you've been following how the media has covered Zohran's candidacy, you know how important it is to understand how bias affects political reporting. That is why I like the Ground News bias comparison feature so much. Like here, if you look at the high factuality left-leaning sources, you can see that they are actually covering the role that Islamophobia played in this election, while right-leaning mixed factuality sources are calling him a bad example. And if you click on the more centrist sources, you'll see reporting on Mamdani running on affordability. So if you're interested in understanding how political bias affects the news you read and you want to make sure you get the real story, well, guess what? You can join me and get Ground News for 40% off if you use my special code FACTUALLY. Go to groundnews.com/factually to be more informed. So even though Cuomo was humiliated in the primary, the dude is running again in the general. And last week, he literally said that if he loses to Zohran a second time, he'll move to Florida. Which honestly, that could be another campaign ad for Zohran. Zohran is gonna rid New York of sexual assaulters, one elderly politician at a time. Good fucking riddance, Andrew. You won't have to eat any of those pesky bacon, cheese, and egg bagels in Miami, buddy. Get the fuck out of here. But for now, Cuomo's giving it one last shot. So what tactic is he trying to use to defeat Zohran? Well, since he couldn't win on charisma or specifics, he's choosing a different route. He's attacking his opponent on something that had nothing to do with New York: Israel. Cuomo called anti-Semitism the most important issue of the campaign, which is weird because even Jewish New Yorkers didn't rate it as their first issue. They ranked it fourth after, you guessed it, affordability. But that didn't stop Cuomo from running on a vague platform of conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, plugging his anti-Semitism charity that doesn't appear to actually do anything, and even signing up to be a lawyer for Israel's prime minister in his trial for war crimes. Which, you know, doesn't really sound like he's a dude who'd be invested in being mayor. He literally announced a side hustle halfway around the world backing up a genocide. And this is just another example of Cuomo and other mainstream Democrats being out of step with the public. Cuddling up with old baby bomb and Bibi isn't a great way to win Democratic votes. The vast majority of registered voters in New York City are Democrats, and 60% of Democrats now sympathize more with Palestinians than with the Israelis. Americans are tired of giving bomb money to countries with universal health care to oppress other populations, while hardworking Americans are selling plasma to pay for prednisone. And Zohran understood that. Sure, he made his position on Gaza clear, but he didn't center his campaign around our foreign policy towards another country's genocidal war. He built it around issues that would actually improve the quality of life for actual New Yorkers. You know, the people he wanted to vote for him. And those same issues are broadly popular with Americans across the country because Americans are suffering and they want help. And that is how Zohran won. By doing so, he supercharged voter turnout. 37,000 people registered to vote in the 14 days leading up to the election, compared to just 3,000 in the previous election. That's over 1,000% increase. Zohran brought an entirely new subset of voters, predominantly young people, who had previously tapped out of politics back into the election. And that is exactly what Democrats have been saying they need to do ever since 2024. But instead of embracing his methods and treating him like the way forward that he is, they're denouncing him and running away from him after he already won their primary and became their fucking candidate. But you know, not all the Democrats have their heads stuck in the sand like this. The good news is at least some of them are starting to come around to the idea of, you know, learning to fucking win. Zohran recently went to Washington to brief Democrats on what made his primary campaign so successful. And you know, as much as I think they can learn from Mamdani, I think they also have a lot to learn from one of the people who lost to Zohran, Brad Lander. Lander was the longtime city controller of New York, and while he never hit the level of virality that Zohran did, they agreed on a lot of issues. And so towards the end of the campaign, Lander and Mamdani took advantage of New York City's ranked choice voting and cross-endorsed each other. I mean, look how heartwarming that is. You know, Democrats always say they want leftists and progressives and liberals to stop attacking each other and unite to win elections. Well, guess what? In New York City, that's what they fucking did. And you know, I think a lesser man than Lander might not have done this because it turned out he was essentially sacrificing his own campaign to help the younger, charismatic Mamdani win. Can you imagine Chuck Schumer doing that shit? I cannot. But Lander did it because he knew it was the right thing to do for the city that he loves. He put the people first, not the donors, not some other government's foreign policy. He put the people first. And that is what the Democrats need to learn most of all, to follow the example of Zohran Mamdani and Brad Lander and the thousands of candidates they've inspired towards what Americans have been begging them for, a better fucking life.